It's an amazing movie and very relevant to the times. When you read the script, what made you decide on doing this movie?
Well, that would have been a museum piece about the past if the current president of the United States had not just been sworn in a couple of weeks before I read the screenplay. The great history makes great historical stories make comments on who we are today, because we see that by and large a lot of human nature has never changed, and you don't just have to go. You could go back to almost any period of time in American politics. And discover some moment where perhaps the First Amendment was under scrutiny, if not all-out attack. That stuff is always fun to do, but the thing that really made this screenplay by Liz Hanna and the chance to do it with Stephen and Meryl certainly was the personal goings-on in the life of Kay Graham. This was a moment, and it bore itself out in both biographies and everything I had read and seen, and even the interviews with that. This was the week in which Katharine Graham became the Katharine Graham who owned and ran the Washington Post, and Ben Bradlee became her greatest champion, as well as an occasional thorn in her side. And when you can do both those things, is you hit on historical era with accuracy and dig into the relationships of the characters, man. Well, that's why we go to the movies.
Mm-hmm. And it talks about press freedom and the responsibility that goes with the press and their choices of what must be done and what should be done. Can you talk about that?
Well, it's not just what the story is; it's also about getting it right. Ben Bradlee himself, I mean, a lot of the documentaries that I saw him said, he says, it's not just having the freedom to publish. The pressure on the Fourth Estate is to get it right. Yes. And he said, well, at least at the Washington Post, because he said, you gotta, because if you're wrong, you gotta eat it for 24 hours. At those days you only had 24 hours until you could rectify any mistake that you had made. So there is the I think the importance of a responsible, free press that cannot be cowed, cannot be threatened, cannot be bought off into what stories they cover and how they cover them. And I think, look, I don't think it's just political. I think there is an aspect of corporate commerce in which there's an awful lot of people who don't want the full story to be told, not just because they've been elected to office, but because they're making an awful lot of money on what is the status quo.
Mm-hmm. And were you familiar with this story before you read this?
This happened when I was in junior high, 1970s, so I was aware of it that was going on, but I didn't pay that much attention to it. Later on, the Watergate era, that's when I was in high school, so we paid a lot of attention to that.
Thank you very much.
Nice talking to you, Janet.